Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Oh, okay, chalo, fine. I did a lot of things actually. My laptop didn't restart. Ultimately, I had to switch back to my desktop, and now I'm doing it once again. So sorry for this. Okay. I guess now there should not be any issue. Kind of did everything, every possible thing that I knew to do. Yeah. It was the issue of my laptop also. I have not shut down my laptop for more than like 15-20 days by now. I think it is not allowing to me to do anything. Lastly, Google was not also opening up. Okay, so let's get back into action. Sure, let's start. So quickly we shall be updating everything, right? And then let me go to the install Kubernetes using kubecops. Okay. So let's go ahead and let us try to do it. We need to have kubectl installed, so let us quickly go for the kubectl page as well, and let us do that. So this is the command you can see. Right. Right. So this is adding the execution permission to kubectl, and then we are moving it to user local bin kubectl. Now let me show you. If you try to see the path variable echo dollar path, that will tell you that these all locations are there where you can keep user local bin, user local s bin, user s bin, home ec2 user local bin, home ec2 user bin. So these are the things, these are the places where you can actually keep your data in order for Linux to automatically pick up, right? So we are moving it to user local bin. As you can see, we are sudo move our kubectl to user local bin, right? Let us do that. So now it goes to user local bin. So we can run cube.
Vishal, we are not able to see other
Sorry?
screen.
Sorry?
We are not able to see the other screen. I would say
Oh,
the instance window.
hang on a second. Now you can see it?
Yeah, now we can see.
Okay. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, see. This is your, I just echo dollar path I did. So we found out that this is the, no, places where we have our path variable pointing to user local bin, user local has been this. So we are moving kubectl to user local bin kubectl. So it becomes globally whatever is present in path, whichever, paths, basically these are the, if you do pwd in a present working directory, the paths you find out. So whatever directory is present over here, anything under those directories will be accessible throughout the entire machine. So this kubectl, since we have moved it to user local bin, now it is accessible to the entire machine, right? You can run kubectl version. Okay, I think it is dash version. No, just version. Okay, it is simply version, right? So you can see the version is data, the version data is showing. If the version data is showing, that means your installation of this particular thing is successful. It was not installation, just download and move, right? That's what we did. Now I don't need this anymore. Let me come back over here. We need to install kops, right? And you must have an AWS account, generate IAM keys and configure them, right? We'll talk about it. Let's start by installing kops. Now come to Linux. In case you're on Mac, you can go for Mac OS. on Linux. So we're taking this particular part, right? So this is the downloading part. You can see it says it is download, right? So let's go ahead and let us download it first. We're putting this command, and you can see it is downloading. Downloaded. So now we can come over here and we can add once again the execution permission. Same thing basically. There also you added execution. Here also you're adding execution permission. And then we have to move it to user local bin, right? The same three operations in both the cases. So our cops is also in path. Kubectl also in path. Cops version should also work. And you can see cops version is being shown to you, right? Okay, it is showing git this much because it was downloaded from GitHub. If you see, it was downloaded from github.com/kubernetes cops releases download, right? So that is why. Okay, so far everything is good. Everybody, Mithun, Sunil.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we downloaded this particular thing and we just kept it over there, right? So now what I need to do is that we have to create a Route 53 domain, okay, for our cluster. Now, for the people who have not done AWS yet, don't worry yet what I'm doing. I'm just trying to create a domain registration, not exactly registration of a domain. I'm trying to create a hosted zone. Means what? Means when you say DNS records basically, right? So when I say, let's say flipkart.com, now flipkart.com is converted to Flipkart's IP. Or let's say, for example, just look over here. There is a public DNS for this machine, something.com. So when we hit this, it will automatically convert into this IP address. So this conversion of IP addresses, to do this, to do this kind of thing, we need some kind of a DNS server with ourselves, right? So in AWS, the DNS server, or let's say the DNS service, is known as Route 53. So you have to make an entry in Route 53, okay? So because the Kubernetes will be using that particular entry for the IP address conversion. So let us go to Route 53, which is present in here. Okay. And we have to create a hosted zone over here. Right. Asking for the name of the domain. So let me say that the name is, let's say, for example, let's say K8s means Kubernetes dot techstories.com, tech.com. Let's say I'm making it a private because, of course, publicly this IP, this one, if you directly hit on your browser, nothing will happen. This does not exist. But let me hit in private basically. So I'm going to put the VPC of North Virginia, that is this or this one, and to create it. Okay, you don't need to do anything about it, just create and leave it. The other things will be automatically managed by Kubernetes itself, right? So you need to create a hosted zone and keep it just like that. So we did it. Let's come back. Okay, then what we have to do, so now let me quickly open up a notepad and write down the information that we are using, because the information is very important. So our Route 53 is that we hosted zone that we created. The name is k8s.tech.com. Okay, these names are very important. All right, next what we need to do, we need to create an S3 bucket. Okay, where our cluster state will be stored. Means what? Means whenever it is trying to create a new file, or the configuration of the cluster, how many master nodes, how many slave nodes, every single thing, it needs to keep it somewhere, right? Now S3 is what? S3 is the storage of AWS. Just like in Google, you have got Google Drive. On AWS, we have got S3. So in S3, we can store this thing, right? So we can go to S3, or else we'll use command line, not an issue. So we'll open up this one. We can use command line for creating the bucket and all those things. So what I need to do is that I need to first of all create a command line user. Okay. If I don't have a command line user, I cannot really use the command line. So once you have the command line user, you are more or less good to go with everything. So let us quickly create a command line user for this person. So now how to create users on AWS? You can see there is only one user as of now, but we can create much more users. Okay, how to do that? You have to come to IAM, which is present over here, right? And I can see it's telling there are 3 users over here. So okay, I think I created it some point of time, but I forgot what is the credential. I'll delete, I'll create it once again. Or 3 days ago only I created it. Okay, I'll delete and create it once again. So I'm going to create a new user. I'm calling add user. Okay, I'm going to write down, let's say CLI user, right? Command line interface user. I'm giving it programmatic access because you can see this user can have CLI access. So I have to give this access, programmatic access. Permissions, give some permission. I'll directly attach some permission. So I know I want this user to be able to use Route 53 also. Route 53 full access. I am adding the permission. I want this user to use S3 full access. I'm adding the permission. I'd require this user to have EC2 full access. I know going forward I shall need it. Either I can do one at a time and again come back and keep on adding, or because I know I'm just keeping on adding at these things, right? I need VPC full access. So this, and I also need IAM access. These 5 things I shall need in this user. Okay. So whatever things I give, look at it. Route 53 full access means it can access my DNS. This DNS that I have set up. This user can access S3. So this user can access the storage completely. This user can access EC2 so that it can read the states of what all servers are running or how many servers you want to run, if you want to run any by automatically and all those things. It can access the networks so that it can actually launch within a network if it wants to launch a server or something. It can also have the full access for the IAM so that if it requires to create any new policies or something, it can do that. Okay. So these 5 things we need to have with ourselves. Create the user. So now here we have got access key and secret access. We need to keep and copy and keep this thing ourselves. So CLI user, okay, access key, secret access key. Keep this data so that you can ultimately log in, okay, to this user. Otherwise, you will not be able to. So I can close this guy. If I want to log in into the console, we have to write down AWS configure. And you can see it is asking for the access key, right? So give the access key, whatever we copied. That is this one, right? Give the secret access key, whatever we copied, that is this one. Oh. It is asking the region name. We are using US East 1, that is your North Virginia. Just to confirm, come back over here. Look at the region of North Virginia. It is known as US East 1, right? That is the region we are using. And default output format, let us write as JSON. So if we want to see some output, we shall see in JSON. That these are the 4 settings that you need to do when you want to configure this particular thing. Are we all clear in this part, everybody? We just created a user and we gave these permissions to it and we logged into that user from the command line. Bhagwan, Moina, what about you? People are more or less understanding what is going on? Okay. So now that I have logged into this user, right? So I can actually check what all buckets I have and all those things. So you can like AWS S3 list. So you can see the list of buckets we have over there, right? So you can create a new bucket. AWS S3 make bucket, and we can call it. This is how you need to write it. Just like for a website you write HTTP, here you write S3. So the bucket I want to create, I am going to call this thing. Let's say K8s. Okay, buck.k8s.tech.com. Okay, this is my bucket name. So now if you do an ls, you will find out that this bucket is also being shown over here, right? Here it goes, buck tech k8s whatever.com. I want to keep this data with myself, so I'm copying it and I am actually pasting it over here. So this is my bucket. Now at this point, what you need to do is that you may or may not actually, doesn't really make much difference, but it is a good idea to create a variable known as cops state store. Means where are you storing the state of cops, right? I'll show you the documentation. This thing. Come here. Export cops state store and write down wherever whatever your bucket's name is, right? So export the cops state store. So what will happen? This will be actually able to know that which bucket you're trying to save. Otherwise, when next time you try to write something, you have to actually say that okay, this is the bucket every single time. Okay, so we'll do that. This is our bucket. We exported the variable. So now it is not a global variable. It is just for this session. I mean, sorry, it is a global variable, but only for the session. If I exit out of this user and log in once again, this data will be removed. Okay, this is temporary data. Now we have to build our cluster configuration. So you have to write down this one. Cops create cluster. Now we cannot just stop over here. We have to add a lot of things actually. I'll show you one by one. First of all, let us go to cops create cluster help and see what all things we have. Okay, there are a huge lot of things that we can do with cops create cluster, right? Now if you see it, this thing creates a cluster in AWS. So they are asking us to do like this: cops create cluster, and then the cluster name followed by where the state is. Now we do not need to write it down because we already exported this variable. So if you had not done it, you would have written it like this: state equal to then S3, once again the same thing. So when you have this variable, it can already read from there. But anyway, it is always a better idea to give it. Since I did this point of time just over here, I will not do it. I'll not write this line over here. I can exclude this. The zones means the availability zone. So writing is US West 1A. We're going to go with US East 1A, let's say, for example. Okay. Node count equal to 2 means there are going to be 2 worker nodes or 2 slaves basically. We can add the master count also. How many masters we want? 60. We can export a lot of variables they are asking us to do. They are telling that the node size. So they are going for M4 large. Master size. So here master and slave are known as master and node. Okay, the terminology is different. In Docker Swarm, we used to call it manager node and worker node. And here it is manager node is called master and worker node is just called node. Master node. So they are saying the masters have to be M4 large. The node has to be M4 large. The zones means the zones we are using, they can be US where East 1D, East 1B, East 1C, etc. And the cop state store we already did this one, right? So it is asking us to do like that. So we can just write like this. That's what they're telling. Okay. Now let's not waste much time and let's try to write the things slowly, one by one. So let us try to write by ourselves. More or less got an idea. So when I try to build it, you will find it out even better. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is that cops create cluster. Okay, I'll just create this in my notepad, this particular query command. I want the name of the cluster to be, I think I will put name equal to I want it to be cluster dot k8s dot cluster 1, let's say. If by chance this approach this attempt fails, you have to go for cluster 2 because same name it will not allow twice. Cluster 1 dot k8s dot tech.com, that is the name I'm writing, let's say. Right, you can write any name, right? I just am trying to follow a particular convention. This is the convention we typically write names in. So this is the name of the cluster I want to set up. Okay, after that what else I want to set up, let us see. I want to set up the zones, right? So let's say I want to go with US East 1A. Okay, US East 1A. Right, this is the zone I want to, availability zone. Okay, let us say okay, after that I need to say that which DNS I am using, whether it is private or public. So DNS is private. Is it written in equal to or with space? Okay, it is written with space, not with equal to. Fine. In Docker we used to write with equal to, right? Here it is with space, just like this. DNS is private. So why am I writing C? If you see the DNS hosted zone to use public or private, default is public. So you have to go for private. That is I'm writing private. Okay. If you do not write anything, it will think it is public and it will not match. Okay. Acha. So these many we have given. We can go for node count also, right? How many nodes do you want? That also you can mention. Let's say you want to. Acha, this is coming with equal to sign. Array, equal to and space both are allowed, I think. This cluster name equal to they are writing over here, and here they are not writing like that. Node count 3 also they are writing. Node count equal to zero. So equal to is also supported. Without equal to is also supported. So let's say node count. I want, let's say 2 slave nodes, or let's say 3 slave nodes. Okay. I think I can go for this also. The master count also we can go for. Let us just check it out. If we have master count, yes, we can go for master count as well, right? So let us write a master count. So I want a master count of, let's say 1. I want 1 master, 3 nodes. Okay. Acha. You can write down the public name of the master, right? If you want to write down a name, otherwise it will automatically take a name. So the name you can leave. Master size. Set the instance size for the masters. Now the masters you cannot launch on a T2 micro. You cannot launch a master on a T2 micro. Master must be launched on a bigger machine. So let us go for a master size. Let us go for, let us find out a 2 GB RAM machine, because 2 GB is minimum for master. Okay. 2 GB RAM EC2. This guy T2 small. We can go for, or let's say let's go to T2 medium. Oh, fine. T2 small is okay. I think T2 small will work out. Let me just find out Kubernetes master specification. Okay, hang on a second. Minimum requirements. Oh, yeah, minimal is 2 GB. I told you, right? And this worker nodes can minimum have 1 GB. So worker we can launch on T2 micro, but this one we cannot. We have to go for T2 small at least. So let us go ahead and do it. So, where is it here? Master size is, let's say T2 small. Okay, and node size also let me mention. Let me do it here. Node size I want to be T2 micro. Okay, so 1 GB RAM will work out over there. Okay, what else do we have to do? Did everything more or less, size and all those stuffs. Let us go for I don't think anything else is required. Let us try to run this command. Let us see if we find any issue. Then we will go for, let's say, fixing that cloud. Which cloud we are using? AWS, GC, etc., etc. OpenStack. Let us go for cloud. AWS. I think this should work out. Let's see if this thing works out. Yeah. So let's try our best and let's press enter. SSH public key must be specified. Okay. We need to create a public key. Let me first create an SSH key. Okay. So SSH key gen done. Then we have to actually take this particular command and run it. So you can see this. It is adding this particular key that you created to the secrets of cops. Why this key is required? Because it will be launching a new what instance. When it launches a new instance, it needs to write this thing, write a security key PEM file. So it will not launch with the PEM file that we have given. It will create its own PEM file. Through that it will launch, right? So let us try to Take this and paste it over here. Nice. Now let us try to run the cluster command. Achha, by the way, remember, create cluster does not create the cluster, okay? Create cluster, it is a little confusing, but create cluster will not create the cluster. Create cluster will create the configuration for the cluster. Then we'll be learning update cluster. Update cluster actually creates the cluster. So this is a little confusing. Just try to get your head around this. So create cluster command creates the configuration file for the cluster creation. It does not create the actual cluster. Okay. Update cluster command reads the configuration file and actually creates the cluster. Right? Are you clear so far? Anybody having any sort of doubt? Please ask me. Yes, no? Are you sure everybody is okay? Can I just get a yes also from everyone, please?
Yeah, please proceed.
Others?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, please proceed.
Okay. Mithun, understanding, right?
Yeah.
Chalo, fine. See, it says cluster now already exists. Use ops subject cluster to apply changes. That happened because we already created. But anyway, that's fine. So this name, I told you, right? One name cannot be taken twice, but this cluster will work because the only issue it found was that it didn't have the SSH key, which we actually added by using create secret. So the cluster is already there. Now we need to see how far the cluster has proceeded. I mean, is the cluster how? Sorry, that was the wrong thing. I want to see that how how the configuration has been written for this cluster. So you have to go for editing the cluster. Okay. So now see this. Come back over here. If you want to edit the cluster, the first is cops get cluster. I'll show you all the cluster lists, and then you can go for cops edit cluster, right, for editing the cluster. So let us do a get cluster. We already know the cluster name, but anyway, let's still do it just to see the command cops get cluster. Right? So you'll find out this particular cluster is there running in this particular availability zone, this particular cloud. I want to know that what is the let's say the EML file it is created. It will create an EML file, right? Cops edit cluster and then put the name. See this. Now read this file. Okay. Here you can see cloud provider is okay. The first is the name. Okay. What is the name? When it was created? 23rd 1st 2020. Who is the cloud provider? Right. Achha, CPU request 200 milli. Leave it. Memory request is 100 milli, which basically means what? 1 GB, 100 MB. This is basically. It is created an instance group. What is an instance group? It is just a group, just like you got target group like that. Okay. So I mean, and forget about it. This you should not worry about right now. This is simply that it says that okay, this group of instances we are launching. We are launching in the master US East 1A. It will be launching what? T2 small, and in node 1A, which you will see below it, it will be launching T2 micro. Nothing else. Acha. The API access it is opening up for the internet. You can see 0000/0. So from anywhere on the internet, you should be able to access this Kubernetes cluster, right? Come below. Okay. So it is creating an internal network. You can see 172.20.0/16. So this network will be created. I'll show you this VPC. They will create a VPC for this particular, this one, right? Okay, then we have in the networking you can see it is creating a CIDR of 100.64.00/10. Now if you ask me what is the difference between this one and this one, so this particular one 172.20.0/16 is the VPC within which from which the the new machines that we run, the new machines that will come up, the masters, the nodes, everything, so they will get their IP addresses from 172.20.0/16 in the outside. and internally they will be controlled by an IP address that will be generated from here. If you see, this guy is /10, so this is even bigger number of IP addresses, right? This is to make sure that in outside, how many ever machines you have, you always have enough IP addresses inside to control them. It will automatically create a subnet 172.30.20/19. That is under this one. It is creating a subnet. So it is creating a network, subnetwork. This is called Kubernetes networking. It will automatically create everything. You don't need to worry about anything, right? It is using the availabilities on US East 1A. You can see the subnet name is also going to be US East 1A. It creates the same name. You have a private DNS, right? Anybody any doubt on this particular one? Was it clear? Whatever we talked about? Yeah. This is the typical configuration setup that came up, depending upon whatever input we had given earlier, right? Right. See the cloud out sorry, the bucket and every single thing is coming up, right? It is going to create under the bucket a file with the name cluster1.k8s.tech.com. This file will be created, right? And here it will be actually storing all the configuration data. Now for us to actually able to work with this particular thing, now listen what I'm telling. Now for us to actually be able to work with this particular thing, we need to give this particular EC2 instance a role. We need to give this particular EC2 instance a role where we give all the policies that we had given to the internal user. I'll tell it once again. I created the command line user, and through the command line user, I gave it certain roles, right? Certain policies, right? We gave that these 5 permission it can able to exhibit. These same permissions should be attached to the machine also, the EC2 instance, because this EC2 instance, think about it, when you try to watch a video from Amazon Prime, your the particular EC2 that is running, that EC2 needs to have a role which allows it to get access to S3 bucket, because in Amazon Prime videos, when you watch Amazon Prime videos, the movies are stored in S3 bucket. So you need to be able to pull them from there. If you want to pull them from there, you need to have the relevant role with yourself. Otherwise, this resource will not be not be authorized to actually pull the data from S3 bucket. Similarly, now this guy wants to use Route 53. This guy wants to use IAM, all those 5 things, right? S3, EC2 and VPC. Because you can see it is creating a network. It is trying to create a network. It is trying to create a subnetwork. That means we need VPC. You can see it is trying to create this thing. What do you call it? Your EC2 instances. It is going to launch a T2 small and 3 T2 micros. It requires EC2 access. This machine requires to actually go ahead and create private keys, public keys, and the roles that is required to have those machines with. The master it is launching, that master should able to control the slave, right? That means in the master also it needs to attach a role for EC2. Does this point make sense? Or do you want me to draw a picture? Are you understanding? People, response please.
Sir, can you please explain with some drawing?
Wait a second. Okay, what I'm telling is, now this is, let's say, our Kubernetes controller machine, okay? So this is the server where we are doing the Kubernetes control. This is the K8s controller, means the one that we are working right now, right? So this is the machine on which we have installed COPS, and we are operating on this machine, right? This is not a local system. This is the EC2 we are operating on. Now, what all things this EC2 needs to do? This EC2 needs to do a lot of things, right? It needs to read the COPS state store. I mean, basically read the state from S3 bucket that we created. It needs to write DNS entry, right? It needs to, okay, what else? It needs to launch EC2s, because it needs to launch the master, then the nodes and all those things, right? It needs to create VPC, means network, subnetwork. We just now saw it needs to create them. Also, it needs to attach, acha, okay. It needs to create new roles to attach to the master so that the master can control the slaves. This is the thing I'm talking about. So we have to create some new role. We will not create this Kubernetes controller itself. Will create a role and it will attach that role to the master so that the master can control the slave. Because if two resources need to control each other, we need to have a role, right? If two resources need to control each other, we need to have a role. So if the master needs to control the slave, we need to have a role for the master also. Now, are we going to write the role for the master? No, we are not doing anything. We didn't even actually create the master by ourselves. We are believing that the Kubernetes controller will do that. Now, if it has to do it, then definitely we need to go ahead and give it the roles, so that it can actually operate on these particular features, right? Clear, guys?
Yes.
This means we need to have the AWS VPC, which is the network. Sorry, not AWS. What am I writing? EC2, VPC, Route 53. Exactly whatever I gave to that user, right? All these roles have to be added to the machine also. S3 and IAM. These 5. So IAM is for the last one, S3 is for the first one, Route 53 is for the DNS, EC2 for EC2, and VPC for network. So these 5 roles have to be attached to the controller machine. Okay. So let us quickly go ahead and let us quickly create some roles. So you can see I had already created one role called cops role, right? But anyway, I'll delete it because the last time I did, I created it 3 days ago. But I'll create it once again for you. Create role. Okay. I am creating this role for a EC2 instance, right? I'm selecting EC2. What all things I want to add? Let us search the policies. I want to add a, see, you can do in one shot, you can just add administrator access, but that's a very bad idea. You should not give extra access to people. If you give administrator, it can do everything. Anyway, so let us add EC2 full access. Let us add VPC full access. Let us add the Route 53 full access. S3 full access. And IAM full access. Let's create this role. Let's attach this role to this particular machine. Let me call this thing once again cops role, right? Let's create the role. So right now, just look at this particular thing. You got a small letter AWS role. You got a lot of capital letter AWS role, and you got a cops role. But when you shall actually run the cluster, you'll see new roles are being created. So in order for our machine to able to create new role, it has to have the IAM access, and that is the reason for giving the IAM access. So let us. Oh, I had the IAM opened over here already. Anyway, so let us go to the machine and let us attach this role to this particular machine. This is the one. Attach or replace IAM role. That is this cops role. I want to attach, right? Apply. Done. So now this guy is working. So now what I want to do, see, I basically this controller. Let me come back and let me try to do the main thing, which is cops update cluster. I think that is the command. Cops update cluster to create the cluster. Okay, and you have to write down the cluster name -- yes. So the cluster name is, we already know the cluster name, that should be here somewhere. Oh, let us try it out and let us see if this thing works. See, waiting for IAM instance profile to be ready, right? Waiting for IAM instance profile. So initially, cluster is starting, it should be ready in few minutes. Okay. Now see this. Initially, it skipped the DNS validation because it was private. That was the first thing. Okay. It issued a new certificate, right? API Server Aggregator CA. So CA means certifying authority. It created a lot of new certificates. Okay. Acha. COP certificate, a lot of certificates it created, right? Master certificate. So for all these machines, certificate means from the SSH key it is creating. Okay. Now see, it was waiting for this particular thing, nodes clustered on k8stech.com. Let me take you to AWS once and just give you a little see. Come over here, refresh this screen. See what is happening. It created 4 machines. This is the master machine, and these 3 are the node machines, right? So I'll just filter by the word k8s. Okay. Yes. So master machine and the node machines. The nodes are T2 micro. The master is T2 small. Okay. All of them have their public IPs and all those things, right? Everything is fine. Look at the private IP 172.20.49.172, right? So it is 172.20. That is the series of IP it is taking. So if I take you to VPC, that is the networks, you'll be able to see it has created a new network over there. See, Kubernetes network that is operating on 172.20 series of IP addresses. This is a new network it has created. It has created routing table, every single thing. It has created subnets also. Look at here. So which one it is? This is the one, subnet, right? /19. It already told, right? It is going to create a subnet of /19. It created that. If I take you to here, let me refresh. See, it has created 2 roles, right? New roles, masters and nodes, right? If I take you to Route 53, you will see it has done 2 entries over here, right? Now this IP address is a dummy IP address, guys. Right now, if I try to go for it, takes a little time to write this IP. Till the point these IPs are changing, this will not be usable. It takes a little time. Come back over here and try to run. See, for validating cluster, you have to say cops validate cluster. So just run this command, cops validate cluster, run it. And see, it will say it is failing. It says that validation error. Validation failed for DNS API server. Which one is that one? API.cluster.com. This is the API server. This validation failed, right? So it's telling that the DNS controller of Kubernetes deployment has not updated the Kubernetes clusters API DNS entry to the correct IP address. The DNS API IP address is the placeholder address. Placeholder means what? Means something that is just kept because you cannot keep it empty. So it is adding this IP 2030.113.123. See, 2030.113.123. It is just adding that. That is not exactly what you're looking for. Please wait about 5 to 10 minutes for the master to start, DNS controller to launch, and DNS to propagate. Right? So it will take a little time, and right now the validation is failed. So we have to wait for some time. Now, in this particular point of waiting, right? So let me show you even more things. Actually, one thing is that this thing, kubectl get nodes, it will be showing you what all. Okay, it is not yet able to go there because the cluster is not yet ready from here. So basically, if you want to log into the master, this is how you have to do it. SSHI/SSH/ID/RSA admin@api.clusters. This is how you need to log into the master, right? If I want to log into the master, you don't need to, but in case you want to, this is how you have to do it, right? Let's just copy this information and keep it with ourselves, okay, in our notepad. So if you want to use this, we can use this. Okay. Oh. Achha. Now I'll show you another thing. Let us come to auto scaling group in EC2, right? So automatically when you want to scale up, scale down, you create auto scaling. So if I take it to auto scaling groups, you will see that it has started an auto scaling group. One for the master where the minimum is 1, maximum is 1, because it always wants to keep it at 1. That means what? If I delete a node, it will come back immediately. Or a master, whatever. Any machine I delete, because it will always keep a minimum count of 3, maximum count of 3. That means it is always 3. If I delete, it will automatically come back. Okay, it will automatically reload. That's a that's a feature of AWS, nothing to do with nothing to do with Kubernetes. Kubernetes is just using the feature of AWS to make sure that it can comply to the user requirements. That's it. So it is a feature of AWS that if you create an auto-scaling. So for the people who have not done AWS, when you do AWS, you will be learning about auto-scaling, right? So it is a topic that is covered in AWS, not in DevOps. But the idea is that it is, you can see the minimum and maximum is 3 nodes. So it will always have 3 nodes. Minimum is 3, maximum is 3. It is fixed to 3. You delete one, so immediately it will find out that, okay, so we have got one node less. Let us quickly launch another one so that we can comply to this particular requirement, right? Acha. Okay, more or less, these are things. If I take you to key pairs, you will find out it has created a new key pair also, right? So we are using this key pair, desktop NVKP, to authenticate our EC2 instances, right? When we select a key pair. So this is the key pair it has created, and it created from the SSH key that I had given over there. I created na SSH key gen. From that it created this key pair. Are we all clear till here? Anybody any doubt?
Yes.
Tell me. Doubt is there? Tell me.
No, it created node.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Sunil, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, Kubernetes is launching most of the things in AWS without operating on AWS, correct?
We told it that it is AWS. If you remember the create cluster command,
Yeah,
we told it to operate on AWS.
yeah. But here the T2 micro is it's a chargeable, correct? T2 small.
T2 small is chargeable, yes.
Yeah.
That is chargeable. Yes. What was the other question?
Yeah, this Kubernetes is launching both master and slave in one availability zone.
Because I just mentioned one availability zone. If you see my cluster command, I just mentioned only one availability zone here. I could have done multiple by putting a flower bucket like this. 1B, 1C, and so on and so forth. How many ever you want, you can mention like this. So since I gave one, it is launching in one. It is all about what configuration I gave. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can we have this internet facing Kubernetes cluster?
Yes, sure. You have a domain, right? You can just try it out.
Okay.
Only thing, if I want to get, then I have to first buy a domain. Otherwise, let us see. Validate cluster.
Here freenom is not required, na? The domain.
You can take now. If you have a freenom domain, then you can just make a public DNS, and through that publicly you can try use Kubernetes cluster. You can do that.
Okay.
Anyway, we shall operate from command line. Kubernetes has a GUI also. You can operate from GUI. GUI is easy, and we don't want it to be easy, right? I mean, I typically use the command line. I do not use the GUI. Right? So the GUI we cannot launch also over here because this is a Linux server. If this was a GUI server, I mean, let's say Red Hat server with GUI or something like that, then I could have launched it, because the GUI will only be accessible on localhost. The GUI will not be accessible from through IP address also from outside. You cannot. It will deploy only on 127.0.0.1, which means the local host. So this Linux machine is not even suitable for running the GUI. You need a either a Windows server or maybe a Linux server with a graphical user interface like Red Hat server with GUI or CentOS server with GUI, something. Ubuntu server with GUI. This thing does not come with GUI. AWS Linux servers do not come with GUI. So you really cannot use them for launching the GUI of Kubernetes. Okay. So it says the cluster is ready, right? If you want to see how to deploy the GUI, I'll show you, but it will not work anyway. So see, deploying GUI for Kubernetes. You'll find it out. Okay, web UI dashboard. This is the one. Right? This is how it looks like if you do from the GUI. But all these things we can do from our command line also, right? So if you want to do that, then you have to just run this command. That's it. The dashboard UI is not deployed by default, or deployed run the following, because the dashboard UI is like, if you need a GUI, then go for it. I mean, it is not something that is given with it, right? So that's how it has to be done. So you can just go ahead and you have to run this command. So you can see that it is done, right? So it has just done it. So now in order to run it, you have to go for Kubernetes proxy, and see the UI can only be accessed from the machine where the command is executed. Okay, so we cannot really access the machine. It is only accessible on localhost 8001. Even if I open up 8001 on, let's say, this one, my security group, I still cannot use this. It will only be accessed from the machine where the command is executed. So this particular thing doesn't quite work out on this machine, at least. I don't know if there is a way to make it available to other machines using dashboard. I don't know. So that's not what I typically do. But yeah, so now what you need to do typically is that you need to run this command called kubectl proxy. If you do so, you will see that it is actually launching this particular thing, right? So if I do it, see, it is telling serving, starting to serve at 127.0.0.1.8.001. It is only accessible in localhost. You can never access it through, even if I open up port number 8001, still I don't think it will be accessible. Let me try it out still once. I never tried it, but I'm pretty much sure that it will not be. Then let us see if we can, right? So let me go to our machine. Where is it? This is the one, K8s controller, this guy. Let me go to this one. Let me open up the port number 8001. Let us see if we can somehow. If we can, then maybe we can try to explore it. But I don't think so. Okay. Let us see. Let us take the IP address of this guy. Let us try to hit it. No, it does not, right? It does not allow you to go there. So it will not be exposed actually. It is only from localhost. So if you have a GUI, you can use it. Otherwise, you have no luck in using this. So we'll just stop serving. Okay. But anyway, this is the command if you need to. Okay. Now the next thing that we have to do is basically, okay. So this is it, right? So if you want to delete the cluster, delete the cluster. But of course, we don't want to delete the cluster right now. What we want to do is that we want to deploy on this particular cluster. So let us try to see how we can go for deployment on this particular cluster. Okay. So tell me if we have any doubts so far about anything.
No.
Everybody, I'd like to get a response from everyone. Is everything 100% clear to you? I understand it is a little complicated, but still. Yes, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, Vishal, I need to practice once.
Yeah.
Okay. Moina, clear, na? Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Just a second. Okay, so let us go ahead for actually using this particular thing for doing the particular thing. Acha, just to show you the Kubernetes get nodes. Okay, sorry, I mean kubectl get nodes. With cops also you can do get nodes, by the way. So you can see it is showing all the nodes you have, right? With cops also I think we can do a get nodes. Oh, no. Hey, it does not get nodes. Something was there, right? Isn't cops? Cops cluster node, something like that. I forgot. Get cluster, no, not get cluster. I'm not looking for this one. Which was the command that I was writing? As a kubectl only. Okay, fine. I was thinking that I was writing with cops. Kubectl get nodes is the command that shows you the particular command. And if you do a show levels over here, just like I did that time. Not show levels. Let me see it. What was that? It looks like I've lost it. It was written over there, right? Does that? All right, Moana, not an issue. So, anyway, fine, leave it. So I think we copied a notepad or somewhere, right? Show levels, right? QCL get notes show level. Acha. I wrote the command a little wrong. So you can see it comes like this. Now what is happening basically over here? So you're getting your name, status, role, age, version, whatever you are getting over here also, right? This thing. That is more or less what you need. But here you'll find out the extra level. So which is like beta.kubernetes.io. You probably don't need this particular thing, but it gives you all the details about it. So if it fails, where does it go and what does it do? Every single thing. The failure domain is there, right? Beta dot everything. So you can able to see all the things that is over there, every single thing it is going to do, right? But in most of the cases, the instance type is T2 micro. Every data will be there. It is Linux. It is US East 1. It is US East 1A is the availability zone. It is nodes. Yeah, so it is IP address of the machine. Once again, it is telling about the Linux operating system. It is talking about the role of the particular thing, which is going to be node, etc., etc. So you probably do not need this, but this option is still there, where you can see all the information about this particular node. Okay. Now we come to the main point when we have set up the cluster. How do we actually go for doing a deployment? Let us see it. Let's say I want to run a container with the name. See, just one line of command, just one line. Okay. My Nginx, for example. Okay. I'm going to take the image Nginx, and let's say I want to take replicas equals to 5. I want to run 5 replicas of that, and that should be run on port number 80. So if I just do this much, press enter, you can see it created the deployment, right? It created the deployment. You can run kubectl get deployments, and this command will tell you that what deployment. See, 5 out of 5 is available. Everything is running, right? It automatically downloaded from the Docker hub and it ran it. So image equal to Nginx. This is what it is doing, a Docker pull. Okay, this did a Docker pull of Nginx because Kubernetes also ultimately is using Dockers. So it ran this particular one, and you can run get deployments to see it. And containers are known as pods here. They don't call it container, they call it pods. PODS. If you do pods, you will find out all the 5 pods they are writing, right? So they do not call it container, they call it pods. So all of them are running, you can see, right? So now the question is that if I say all of them are running, how am I going to use this particular thing? How am I going to use this? Which IP address should I hit to get this particular thing? Well, for that reason, now that you have all these things, now you can understand that, and everybody is running on, let's say, your port number 80, you need to add a load balancer. We need to add a load balancer, otherwise this particular thing will not work. So first thing what we need to do is that we need to expose this. I'll just write down the process in a notepad, okay, so that you can remember. I'll share this notepad also with you if possible. So create a deployment. First of all, expose the deployment as a service. The second thing, okay, I mean, you're doing port mapping and every single thing when you expose it as a service, right? With a ELB, elastic load balancer, right? Or just write down load balancer. Okay. In AWS it is elastic load balancer, somewhere else it will be some other name, right? And then access with the load balancer DNS. This is how the deployments are accessed on Kubernetes. So you created the deployment. Now the next step is to expose the deployment as a service. So let us go ahead and let us do it. It is pretty straightforward. kubectl expose deployment. Which deployment? My Nginx. That is the name of the deployment, right? You can see the name is my Nginx. So I'm exporting my Nginx, and I'm going to write down that it has to be on port 80, and it has to be of the type load balancer, right? This type equal to load balancer will make sure that it is balancing out the load that is coming on port number 80 classically. So it is a classic load balancer, right? It is going to do a round robin load balancing on port number 80 only. Okay. Just like if you have multiple, AMIs and, one AMI and you're launching multiple servers in an autoscaling group, you're trying to put a load balancer in front of it. Exactly the same thing it will do. That is why you can understand that it took the, EC2 full access. So it's going to do a load balancing over here. Let me go ahead and let me hit enter on this particular thing and let us see how this particular thing is working out. Oh, sorry, it has to be the space is not there. Service my Nginx exposed. So now we can go for kubectl get services, right? We'll to see it. See, in the cluster, you remember I told you internally it will be controlling with one particular IP, and externally it will be having another IP address. So externally, whatever IP address is it has that you can see where, that you can see in your VPC screen, right? And this is, by the way, your load balancer. Copy this one, come to here and come to load balancers. You will find them. Where are the load balancers? Below. This is it. It created a load balancer for you, right? So let us go and let us find it. Let us paste this, and you can see it is matching. This is exactly what it is. It created a load balancer for you. Let us try to hit this DNS on the browser. It is not yet ready. The Nginx is taking a little time to get ready. Let's wait for some time. Oh, I think port number 80 is not opened, or is it opened? Let me check what is happening. Do we have the port number 80 opened over here? It should be actually by default. It should be. It is launched in, that's a 0 out of 3 instances in service. Wait a second. It is doing the health check, I think. Okay. So once the instances are back, it will be done. So let us wait for some time. It is an internet facing. You can see even though our VPC internally Kubernetes is being controlled internally, but here, so you can see, port number 80 is being forwarded to 30,667. So that is a virtual port they have. Oh, they are written over here. See, that's the virtual port they have created for the container. That's a virtual port they have created for the container for doing the load balancing. So if when we are hitting 80, it is actually forwarding to this particular IP because this is where the load balancing is happening. And then ultimately that is being, supplied to these machines. Anyway, let's wait for some time. Let's see till the point these guys come into picture. These are the machines that we have, the nodes, right? Let's wait for some time till the point they come into picture. Oh, they are in service. So now probably we can try to hit this IP, this one. No, not yet. The service is not yet ready. We do not have port number. Okay, fine. Let us see the this one. Security groups. Okay, not like this, or maybe like this. Nodes cluster and masters cluster. Okay, this is there, right? So the node has port number 22 open from internet, and all traffic is allowed from this security group, which is it itself, and this which is the master. So this is the one that we have to see first. Okay, let me search for this one. That is this. This guy has port number 80 opened. Okay, it is port number 80 is opened. So ultimately we should be able to reach there. So let us see why it is taking so much amount of time. Oh, now it goes. So the Nginx service took a little time to start. And you can see we are reaching to the Nginx service, right? So how it is connecting? It has opened up the security group where it has given a permission to port number 80, and that it is sending to here also and here also, because the deployment has been done either here or here, right? Either on the master or in the node. So it is sending from there to here, and you can see this particular thing is coming up. If I run the command like this, get services wide, then you will actually, nothing much will happen. Basically, it's more or less the same thing. You get the selector extra. Anyway, fine, leave it. So the idea is we are now able to go to the Nginx container, right? So if we had some we have a deployment, we can go to this. Now tell me if this makes sense. Is there a doubt? Or if there is a doubt, what is that?
Nothing. We need to practice. That's it.
Did you completely understand what all things we talked about today? See, the deployment was very easy, right? The main step was setting up Kubernetes, isn't it? The deployment is just from here to here. That's it. That much only. But the setting up of Kubernetes was very big, extremely big. Correct?
Every time we need to set up like this. Also, once it is.
Once it is set up, now it is running, right? So now you can play with it. So it is like production. Kubernetes is a production application. Na? Docker is not that much used in production. So Dockers are used in production through Kubernetes only. Now Kubernetes is also implementing Docker only. So Kubernetes is the one that we typically deploy in production. So once you have deployed this cluster, you are done, right? So now you keep on deploying on top of the cluster. You just take and you run the run commands like that, and you keep on deploying it.
Sir, if you don't mind, can you please put some commands into chat so that we
I
can...
will put in your group itself. I mean, in the Google Drive itself.
Yeah. There.
I'll take all the commands that I ran today. Oh, there are just 50 commands. That's it.
Today less only. That day 160 something.
Which day it happened? 160?
Last week.
Okay. Okay. So it is just 50 commands. Okay. And also, I will send the link of this particular thing. So whenever you're trying to set it up from.
But T2 micro, not T2 micro, T2 simple something. It's a chargeable, na?
It is chargeable, yes.
So if we tried,
You have to pay money.
Yeah.
You have to pay.
Okay.
Trying to launch this. This is chargeable, right? I have given in the chat this link. Okay. Have it with yourself. Fine. Are you all clear? Yeah. Guys, I think we did it in 1.5 hours only, or even less than that, I think. Because the first part you leave, that was like talking about things, and then my laptop broke down, my internet broke down, everything went off, everything restart. We had a break for some 10, 15, 20 minutes. I don't know how much time. So ultimately, wait a second. I will send this file to you through here only. So if I forget to put it over there also, still you can get it, right? So I'm just going to call this thing K8s. Okay. So I'm going to give this file to you right now. So, I don't have desktop icons over here. K8s. Okay. I have put it in the chat, this file. Please download the file from the chat. Okay. Last but not the least, we need to delete the cluster, right? How do we delete the cluster? If we do not know how to delete it, see, at the very end it is written how to delete the cluster. Okay. This is how you delete the cluster. If you do not know how to delete the cluster, then you are gone, because all these things are running. So deletion is done actually recursively. See, notice this one. Cops delete cluster. The deletion is done recursively in the cluster name. So the cluster name, sorry, where is it? Oh, it was here now. I think it was cluster 1 dot, what was that? k8s.tech.com. If I delete it, right, it will do a recursive deletion, because it cannot delete everything at a given point of time. It will be trying to delete. See, these things could not be deleted. The volume, security group, it will again try. It'll keep on trying, and recursively it will be doing the deletion. So once it will do something, again it will try, again it will do something. So, you know, the length more or less looks the same. I think, yeah, the length more or less looks the same, right? These things are there. Again, we're going on. Right, so it's going on, you can see.
Usually it's going to delete all VPCs,
Every single thing.
instances, everything.
Everything.
Buckets and IAM, whatever we created, the users.
Whatever we created. No, not the CLI user. Whatever we created manually cells remain there. Whatever it created will be deleted. Okay.
Basically, we don't use this function, right, much in production. Or we use it.
Yeah, I mean, if your company wants to close their business, you have to run this. But nonetheless, you need to know, right? See, deleted. So right now, if you go back to AWS, so refresh. See, is it refreshing? Okay. That one is gone. Nodes dot whatever. Come back to instances, right? All these things are terminated. Come to, let's say, load balancers. Not there. Come to auto scaling group. Not there. Actually, if I take you to IAM, oh, IAM was already opened over there. Fine, anyway, still. So the user will be there because that we created. If I take you to roles, okay, those two new roles are not there, but this one we created, it is there, right? If I take you to Route 53, okay, that hosted zone we created is there, but it is back into the previous state. See, those extra entries are gone, right? So everything is gone. Every single thing, whatever it created. So you can delete the hosted zone also if you want. Now, if I take you to S3, okay, just to show you that bucket we created from command line anyway. So if I take you here, what is it called? Bug dot. If you come inside that, it is empty. Whatever file it created within that is deleted, right? Every single thing. So you can just delete it from there also, right? So every single thing that it created, it deleted, but whatever we created, it did not. So we can delete it from here also. I mean, just go for, can delete the bucket first. So AWS S3 remove bucket S3 colon / what was the name? Buck dot k8s dot tech.com, right? We have removed the bucket. AWS EC2 LS, if I do, oh my god, I have to write down something. I cannot do like that. AWS EC2. Hey, how do we work with command line EC2? Hang on a second. Let me just search it. AWS CLI for EC2. I don't know. I meant to say AWS CLI command for command to describe. This is called describe. Okay. Describe instances. That is the command we need to run. That means describe instances. So we can run that and we can actually do that. So let us see. Describe instances, right? And oh, it comes in a JSON format. That's wonderfully good, but that's not what you want to see. This is the key that it is showing. It is definitely the instance they created, right? And it says that this particular instance is, where is it? Oh, that's a bad output format. We selected the output format as JSON, right? It is terminated, right? So you can see that it's terminated. How do I? Anyway, fine, leave it. We'll find out later how to delete an instance from command line. But that will be a real cool thing, right? If we can delete an instance from command line, there should be some way to do so, definitely, right? Maybe AWS EC2 delete or terminate instance, something like that, or instance state. I think it is instance state. Check it out. You people ever tried to work with this one? When I taught you AWS, I told you that you can actually work with command line also. S3, I think I showed you also from command line. EC2, I did not.
We can try AWS EC2 terminate instances. AWS EC2 terminate instances.
That is what it is.
AWS EC2 terminate instances.
Okay. Then after that, what is the parameter?
We need to give our instance.
ID.
Yeah. We need to type instance IDs.
Uh,
No, we need to type instance IDs. Then we have to give
how to write it?
hyphen hyphen
Okay.
hyphen hyphen instance hyphen IDs.
Nice. Hey. Oh, acha, okay. It was this machine itself, right?
Okay.
It was this machine itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. What happened suddenly? All right. So see, it is like a self-destructive, right? You were sitting on a branch of a tree. You're cutting the branch of the tree.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great, guys. Let's stop it over here for today.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Bye bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
Right.
Bye.